and I can't wait to continue. I guess we're going to college, and that's exciting. Hey, I'm your cult boyfriend, and we're going to talk about the fifth season of One Tree Hill today. Whoa, well, fuck. Did you like that intro? Fucking clown, dude. What the fuck? I did not know about the time jump. I had no actual idea about the goddamn time jump. I had no clue that was gonna happen. Um, I thought we were gonna get some college stuff, some higher education. I had no idea we were gonna jump like to a pretty specific time, like 4 years, months, and days. Like what? Oh, wow. Wow. And like they were setting up these things at the end of season four that did the showrunner know? There must have been alternatives, right? I wish I could see, because they must have had like several different ideas on where to go from season four, because I think seasons one through four of One Tree Hill, when considered as a whole, like all together, I think it's masterful. I think it's such a brilliant piece of teen drama that words can't really accurately describe how much I love those first four seasons when taken as a whole thing, a whole work of art. It's a masterpiece, honestly. And it was also pretty final. It tied up a lot of loose ends, and it felt like a beautiful novel. It felt almost complete. So I'm sure that continuing the show, there must have been several different avenues that the showrunner and the writers considered, and I this must have just been one, because at the end of season four, it definitely felt like we were going to college. Didn't make me think for a second that we weren't. And I guess it was a pretty big deal when they did this in real time. Like, even when the first episode hit and we were in the future, I was like, oh, is this like some sort of weird thing for the intro? Also, I missed the I missed the theme song for sure. But that's besides the point. We had a time jump. So I think what's more fruitful than discussing like what could have been, what might have been, uh, I think that there's a very clear and sincere reason why we didn't go to college, why we didn't focus on higher education immediately after high school. And it doesn't just have to do with the actual ages of the actors or the gravity of the material that they were going to cover, because they were definitely covering some extremely heavy and philosophically deep themes from the very first episode. So I don't buy that idea, that it's better to have adults deal with adult themes. Fuck that. No, no. I like teen drama because I feel that coming of age is a deconstruction of youth, and coming of age cinema or television, you're able to tell these more amplified stories because everything's a lot more emotionally and romantically intense when you are a teenager. You get a lot more leverage when it comes to how hysterical uh, you'd like the drama to be. So I feel like that is sacrificed when we go to adulthood. Um, but One Tree Hill, of course, just brings it with them. I think that high school in particular, like what I'm talking about, I think those work best in high school scenarios. I don't think that it works as well in college. In college, like it's smart that the showrunner did not want to go to college. It is because Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Veronica Mars, Dawson's Creek, these are a few of my other favorite shows. And the quality drops when they go to college. It does. I'm not saying that Buffy season 4, Veronica season 3, or Dawson's Creek season 5. I'm not saying those are terrible. You know, I'm not saying they're terrible seasons, but they pale in comparison to the high school ones, because there's something else about high school, especially in something that is as interested in expressing social stratification as One Tree Hill was, and like Veronica Mars would be in this same category of class distinction. High school is the great equalizer in a lot of ways. You can have an insanely uniquely privileged individual sitting right next to a future career criminal, right? Like that's that's where you have exposure from all sorts of different classes, from all sorts of different body types and ethnicities and people and cultures, um, in a way that is not voluntary, right? Like in a way that feels a bit trapped. So it's already a bit more intense. I think that in high school, especially postmodern kind of pieces of media, postmodernism works best in an adolescent, high school, like a teenage kind of context. I think that's where like a juvenile one. I think that postmodernism, postmodern teen drama works best in high school. When you get to college, that's another thing because One Tree Hill, as I've said, it punishes its characters a lot, an awful lot. But what's kind of beautiful about it and definitely like admirable and breathtaking about it conceptually is that it's never cynical. This show actually is a defense against cynicism. It does whatever it can to make sure that you don't feel cynical, and we'll get to that when we get to Hayley's. I think she wraps up the raison d'etre, like the reason for season 5 and the finale, and we'll get to her in just a few minutes here, but the best college materials, even postmodern ones, or maybe specifically postmodern ones, it doesn't matter. The best college films, if they're not kind of like raunchy late night comedies, they're extremely cynical and almost nihilistic. I'm thinking of Gossip. I'm thinking of films like those, um, which is definitely something that One Tree Hill would be opposed to. So it did if the showrunner is as smart, conceptually smart, like as I think that he was, he definitely probably looked at the college alternatives, the college options for his characters, and went, "There's no way to do it without becoming cynical. There's no way to do it without losing track of these characters, because of course, like high school and Tree Hill, that is the great equalizer. That's where people who wouldn't normally interact with each other are forced to interact with each other, are forced to interpret each other's like emotional scopes, right? So I get it. I do get it. It's weird. It's really weird. It feels like we're at like Dawson's Creek series finale and we're just halfway through One Tree Hill. Lucas is a writer. He wrote a book, Unkindness of Ravens, basically a love letter to Peyton. Peyton was upset working in LA in a thankless role at a greedy record company, and she came back to Tree Hill and with help from her best friend Brooke started her own record company. Brooke, I think I was on the money in my last video where I really did start to engage with Brooke. I think a bit more, in a way that's more honest, in a way that has more like meat to it, in a more complicated way. And I kind of stumbled upon the idea that Brooke is always like objectified in the sense of classifications. She's always being classified or labeled, which doesn't really allow for too much autonomy. And I think they took that micro punishment and like they ran with it here, and like it's a series of micro punishments, which just becomes like long standing abuse, and they run with it here, especially with her mother Victoria and the company that she doesn't actually have any control over. She really doesn't have any control over her life, even though she is the most successful out of all of them. 4 years down the line, she doesn't have any autonomy. She doesn't have any control over her destiny or her fate. But she she takes control of herself, and she makes a lot of stands throughout the season. Sure, Nathan is the most punished pretty immediately when we return, considering he's in a wheelchair and he lost his dream by a stupid freak accident, getting punched out of a window and getting his spine crushed, basically. Uh, fuck, dude. Sorry, Nathan, but you're the first person who's punished. Well, not really. I was taking notes, and I think when the change started, I was a little. Having finished the entire season now, I can tell you that I'm perfectly fine with with the time jump. It's fine. they were able to do some pretty interesting things once I understood what those things actually were. Because like my very first notes were like, the show stopped punishing its characters, dot dot dot. Because I'm so fucking dramatic, even when I'm just talking to myself and only myself, apparently. The show stopped punishing its characters, dot dot dot. And started punishing the audience. Oh my god. It was hard not to shake that feeling for a while there, especially with the shit it was pulling with Lucas and Peyton throughout the entire season. Lindsay was so annoying, not because she was a terribly frustrating character. She was just became terribly frustrating over the course of an entire season. That was an 18 episode ordeal. That did not have to be an 18 episode ordeal. You made me wait and wait, and then you left me on a cliffhanger, and he better be in Vegas with Peyton. Okay, I'm getting like so far ahead of myself. But pretty immediately, you're getting the idea that everyone is fighting for a lost cause. One Tree Hill itself is fighting for a lost cause. I think that's a lost cause of belief. You know, do you take the non-believers because I'm a non-believer? Faith and belief in the face of all things to the contrary, which is everything in life. Everyone's fighting for a lost cause. Peyton is fighting for her love for Lucas and the identity that she found through music. And you know, Brooke obviously is fighting quite a few lost causes. One of those happened to be Rachel, who appears briefly in this season, and Rachel's not doing well, at least. She is smack addicted, but still gorgeous, and I'm really worried about her. Especially since like Victoria ridiculed her back to the needle, probably. We didn't see her too much, but it was really nice to see her. And of course, Brooke is always trying to save people. I think that's been that way from the beginning, but it came into like full focus during the end of the fourth season, where she, I believe, would have died for Peyton to keep her safe from Psycho Derek and helped rescue her. Peyton honestly rescued herself from that as well. And Peyton is a much stronger character here. I think that Peyton is incredible here. I think that Peyton, maybe because I am an adult or something, but I don't think it matters, right? Because I think that they were dealing with equally adult themes in a high school context before, but or maybe I just think Peyton is one of the best characters ever written, but I always find myself identifying with her quite heavily, and especially here. And there's something nearly like romantically heroic and certainly tragic about Peyton this season. How she regrets not saying yes to Lucas to marry him at that hotel room in LA. How she picks up a copy of his book, how she purchases an Unkindness of Ravens every time she sees it, and she knows she made a mistake, and she knows that they were meant to be, and she will do whatever is within her power, whatever is reasonable, and some unreasonable things as well, to make Lucas accept that. Not admit it, because it's written all over his face. In fact, he writes it in new books, you know, talking about a comet, but as Lindsay interprets and analyzes quite well, the Comet is the kind of car that Peyton drives, and the return of the Comet is the return of Peyton. If Lucas honestly thinks he's repressing this, I mean, I guess we can like Psych 101 him for a second. Like, is he actually repressing his love for Peyton? Or is he refusing to be that vulnerable with someone again? Are we overlooking the idea that Lucas has a deathly fear of rejection? He honestly does. He's terrified of rejection because he's the rejected son. He was always the rejected son. Nathan was the favorite one. He was the one that Dan ignored entirely. He was rejected from birth by his own father. He went through his entire life being rejected. He was a social outcast. He was a social outsider. He was a reject until he came and he transcended the status quo of popularity of the Tree Hill High School social system. And the person he opened up to the most, the person who won his heart for life, Peyton Sawyer, he felt had rejected him. And clearly, Peyton rejected him out of fear of having a life that is completely written, like a record that is already pre-recorded, or you know, just because she's fucking like 19 or 20 when she was proposed to and didn't say no, she said someday. But we understand that Lucas has this fear of rejection, and he does not take rejection well. Dan rejected him, and Dan became his mortal enemy, and Dan lost. Lucas took on the devil and won, and it's a devil that's the devil's first sin, the original sin of Dan Scott was rejecting his son, was rejecting Lucas. So we know that Lucas does not take rejection well. So Peyton, in a way, at least in Lucas's mind, and it's understandable from Lucas's perspective, Peyton does say no, or at least rejects the idea of having Lucas in her life forever. Another person who Lucas wants the love of more than anyone else, just like his father, the love of his life. In his eyes, he wasn't good enough for. So yeah, maybe he is repressing those things, but I think that Lucas is definitely smart enough to know it's written all over his face. But I mean, it does get complicated then because it's a different sort of rejection than the one with Dan. And for a little bit there, yeah, he is kind of treating it that way, or he's also like flirting with her. It's a pretty complicated season for Lucas. I love the bit where she's flirting with a guy and he comes up to her and like whispers like in her ear, like fucking hot as fuck when he does it too. He's like, he's not good enough for you, and she catches him outside, and I was like, don't do that. You can't fucking do that. It's not fair to me, Luke. But it seems like those things are almost compulsory, right? Then, like, Lucas might not even know that he was doing it because he loves her so naturally. Like, it's a part of his biology now. Like, he can't live without her, and she can't live without him. But Peyton is just far more relatable here. So, when I understood exactly what the season was going for, it was, gosh, probably halfway through the season. It was after the 100th episode, right? Which is the botched wedding where Lucas is rejected again by by Lindsay. He also doesn't take that too well now, does he? But he never truly gave her his heart, so it's different. Lindsay acted pretty fucking stupid. It was written all over his face. But I mean, I don't know about you. Maybe some of you have been with people who still haven't gotten over an ex, or there's a one that got away that you can see, that you can feel, and that hurts you, but you love that person so much that don't do that, by the way. Don't do that. It'll hurt you in the long run. But the scene directly after that runaway failed marriage thing, which was a pretty good episode, I guess. Fucking wow. Don't get married in Tree Hill, right? You shouldn't do it. Bad news bears. We had move aside, Psycho Derek. We got Psycho Carrie now stealing kids, and we'll get to Dan in a fucking second. Let me just wrap up this initial thought. In the episode following the marriage, everyone has like some people have actual therapists, like Nathan and Hayley have a marriage counselor, but everyone's having a confidant. Everyone's having someone they're confiding in and going through. Like Lucas has got Andy. It is nice to see that New Zealand Andy and Karen got back together. I like that. But everyone has someone that they are trusting and opening up to, and the show itself is laying down its motivation, its ambition, and its philosophy post high school. It waited a little while to do it, but it did it. And it did it in the most clear way possible, just like in season 4, after the Ravens won the state championship. The showrunner himself showed up to give the show its own melodic philosophical center in the idea of, do you take the non-believers? Because I'm a non-believer. When he played the record store owner named Max, he reappears here for Peyton. And if you want to engage with the show properly, you have to listen and pay attention to when the showrunner, as narcissistic as it may be, inserts himself into the drama in order to actually direct the characters involved. And the showrunner clearly cares about Peyton the most, as he's her therapist for the 13th episode. The show's a lot more than that. Like they're talking about what the record store was, because his record store is now empty, abandoned, vacant, out of business because there's an easier way to get music now, a more cynical way, you might say, but maybe not. Maybe not more cynical. It's just a more streamlined way that even Max participates in. He's like, even I get my music online. But he's like, I think the record store was more than that. And just take everything that Max is saying and apply it to the show. Apply it directly to the show. Fuck a fourth wall. The fourth wall doesn't exist when Max is here. When Max is here, Max is talking about One Tree Hill, the show. The show's a lot more than that. I hope it has something to do with this cool new generation. So that's our first idea of the new generation. Peyton wishes for grace, the concept of grace, not clarity this time, right? Max urges patience from the audience as well as his characters, especially from his favorite one. Peyton and Lucas and Brooke have changed the lives of young people, and maybe that's what it's all about. As Max says that, Peyton, you changed Mia's life and you changed it for the better, and maybe that's what everything's about, right? So we're just lifting what he's saying and applying it to the show as a whole. Clarity followed by grace. How do you keep clarity alive? Those moments of clarity, once you are given clarity, how do you keep it? Through grace and with patience. I also did what Max said. When the showrunner shows up, gives me advice, I take it so that I can properly understand his creation. I went for a drive on the freeway, blasting my favorite songs, or at least the songs that I'm vibing with the most lately, is blasting it, trying to figure something out, and I ended up in a better place thanks to that advice. I made a wish and placed it in my heart. And this isn't the first time we're brought up with this idea of grace and the idea that it's about the new generation. It's about making a less cynical lived experience for the new kids on the block, for the new ones, the new believers. When I think it's a young girl in high school who lives at Peyton's old house and is really interested in Peyton and Lucas's love story because of some of the markings left by Peyton in her room. I am not someone you want to live vicariously through. Lucas Scott didn't think so. And besides, no one's going to write about my life. And I love Peyton. I really do. I even love bitchy Peyton in that library episode when they're all locked inside. She's hilarious. Fuck you, Lindsay. Get bullied, bitch. I love Peyton to death. Um, that's when we get like a Magnolia moment, right? Like everyone, like, because we leave the library and it shows, like Mouth sitting there thinking about Jimmy Edwards. Get over it, dude. But they're all just singing songs, the same song. It's like the Magnolia wise up Amy Man moment, which I mean, I guess I appreciated. But still, I'm not gonna talk about Mouth much. Mouth is literally the worst character. God, I don't even want to talk about his arc because it actually like angers me because it's just so bad. It's just so bad. It's just so fucking poor. Which sucks because Millicent is goddess caliber Bay, and once again, another interesting and unique actor, quite like Shelley from the previous season, is being diminished and limited to a series of plot devices for Mouth. The character who requires the least amount of fucking care. Just get rid of Mouth. I don't like Mouth. Nothing good. Nothing good ever came from Mouth. And that's Mouth. That's our time with Mouth. Millicent, though, love her. I'd like to see more of her. That failed proposal from Lucas is really cool. Because Peyton knows that it's done. Not because Lucas is gone, but because he left the mix CD that she made for him untouched. That's what truly breaks her heart because that's how Peyton truly communicates her feelings. And Lucas leaving that mix CD there, that is telling her that he's no longer interested in her feelings. Shit, it's breaking my heart just analyzing analyzing that moment. They have really like symbolic arguments and they're like literal metaphors, literal symbolism, right? Because I got another argument and it peaks with Peyton throwing copies of Lucas's own book at him because as I've covered, she bought so many copies. She's literally throwing Lucas's words in his face. It was a really loud symbolic moment, but fuck, it was so cool. That was beautifully done. And anyone can pick up on it. This is extremely accessible stuff, and it's poetry at times. I went by this pretty quickly when I was talking about Brooke, but when it was revealed that Victoria was Brooke's mom, I went audibly. I was like, whoa! Shit, man! Oh my god, I was right on the money with the tragedy of autonomy, but finally saw her mom after fucking almost 100 episodes. On the topic of Victoria, that's a decent enough segue into Dan. Because another one of my notes from earlier is that Dan's constant presence in seasons 1 through 4 was integral, so vital to the show. With his prolonged absences in 5, the show is negatively impacted by the loss of a consistent villain. Victoria Davis is no substitute for Dan Scott. And I do think that's what they were trying to do with Victoria earlier. No substitute for Dan Scott. When Dan comes back, I'm like, my God, I missed you, buddy. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck how convoluted the idea is that you only spent 5 years in jail for murdering your brother during a school shooting. Don't care because he needed to come back. Lucas vanquished the devil. He did it. He defeated and destroyed evil. 1 through 4 will always exist. 1 through 4 will always have a beginning, middle, and an end. We're starting something new here with some new goals, some new ambitions, and guess what? You might no longer be the target audience. I mean, you're the target audience, but you're not who the show is trying to change the most. You're who the show's speaking to, but now it's trying to inspire you to not only seek those moments of clarity within your own life, but to lead by example to others with grace, with like a refinement of movements, a refinement of emotion, to live gracefully and with patience, and maybe help this next generation not have to struggle so intensely with ideas of love and fatherhood and belonging. It's a different sort of aims and goals, and we need to bring back our villain. We need someone who is dark and troubled and conflicted and evil. We need Dan Scott. Dan Scott is so necessary. And he's one of my favorite characters on the show because of how shamelessly the writers use him and how good Paul Johansson is at portraying that role. I know that when he shows up, you know, you got a really good chance of him doing some twisted maniacal shit, some really just creepy and weird shit. I love watching Dan. Always entertaining, always just completely gripping and like captivating to watch. As a captivating villain, one of my favorite villains of all time. I love in this show, like he spends the last episode considering smothering an old dying man to death. Oh wait, then he doesn't, and he feels like it's a reward, and he gets to run the fuck over, and the beeper goes off saying that his heart's ready. Oh my God, One Tree Hill, we back to every season ending with maybe Dan's dead. He had a heart attack, he got lit on fire, and now he got run over. Great to have you back, Dan. Welcome back to Tree Hill. I honestly missed you, though. You never realized how much I loved your company until you were gone for 10 episodes. But Lucas had to win. That was Lucas's victory, and nothing can take that away from him. But the show would suffer without him. And that's why we need him back. That's why we need him back, because there's more you can do with his archetype and his symbol. And it doesn't take away from anything that came from the Lucas versus Dan heartbeat. That's the heartbeat. It's not the heartbeat. It's I mean, maybe that's a good through line. I mean, the heartbeat of the first 4 seasons is Lucas and Peyton forever, but maybe the heart attack, maybe the thing that's threatening the beating, maybe the staccato rhythm. Yes, it's the thing that constantly upsets the beating of the heart. We need that. We need Dan Scott, is all I'm saying. And I'm glad that he's still around, and he can't be dead, because I think that the writers saw that without Dan Scott for about 10 episodes in this season, that the show is unworkable without him. If it's just like last time and I said I can't wait for college and they skip college, if Dan's dead, then that's one of the dumbest decisions that this show could have possibly made. I have enough faith in these guys to think that they would know not to kill fucking Dan. And they would also know that we've had patience. You've had patience, showrunner. You said to have patience. Well, we fucking exercised some, didn't we? Lucas better have married Peyton in Vegas. Don't twist my arm for another series of Lindsay or Brooke fuck all episodes. Please, fuck off. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. When I actually give you patience, don't punish me for it, or else my initial reaction is correct, but I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt because I trust you because you gave us such a masterful first 4 seasons that I trust that you know what you're doing. I did like seeing Tim in that library episode I was talking about. I really liked Tim. Really cool, really funny character. I love that he and Bevan, I think, have a kid named Nathan. If I'm piecing that together correctly, I loved him. Really good seeing him, and it's also the moment where you saw him at his most vulnerable. At the very end, you saw an interiority to Nathan. Sorry, to Tim that wasn't there previously, or it was there but maybe wasn't available because they did Tim bad. They should have done a lot more with him. And maybe this was a way of the writers making up for that mistake, for lost times, another lost cause that the show is dedicated to battling and fighting for. Let me go back to my notes. Yeah, it was a rocky start. It was hard getting used to the time jump. And I also wrote down Kevin Federline makes me want to smash my television screen. That didn't help anything. To fucking start off your show with Kevin Federline. And for a few episodes, I wrote this, for a few episodes, the transitional process felt more like creative bankruptcy than a batch of fresh ideas. I think I stand by that. It takes a little bit for the film to form its thesis properly. It takes a little while because it's not being as huh, no, it isn't. It isn't being as articulate with its philosophy as it was in the previous seasons, and maybe that's telling of adulthood as well. It's easier to settle. But the show, it takes a little while this season, and it does come back to something good. So far, it's the weakest of the 5 seasons that I've watched, which isn't to say that it's bad. It's just saying if this is the beginning of the end, then I guess I'll brace for impact. Hayley, I thought, was delightful this season. I thought Hayley's character. Well, no, Hayley. Let's not downplay Lucas or Peyton. Peyton was probably my favorite person this season. She had the best moments and she had the best bits of characterization. And Lucas was battling with his complex, his fear of rejection. But Hayley also benefited greatly from this time jump. I think that, and also Bethany Joy's performance was on fucking point this season. It was really, really good, and her character Hayley, there was a lot there. I actually like was able to feel that character so much, and it was so fun. It was so good, and I like that she was given that philosophical pulpit, the philosophical microphone to actually determine the show's philosophy in its final episodes. Says something like, I wrote it down, I think, garbled, um, jumbled, so not exact, but she's talking to Lucas when he's on the basketball court that just says, I love you forever, signed Peyton on it. And somehow Lucas is still like, good, I don't know what to do. This really fucking hot chick named Peyton wants to apparently just tell the world, what am I gonna do? God, it must be really hard being Lucas sometimes. I think it's the first bitchy thing I've ever said about Lucas. So well, take notes. Take note of that. But Hayley does say that, like, some people say that garbage and pain are really healing, but that's wrong. Garbage and pain is just garbage and pain. You know what's better than garbage and pain? Love. Love is not overrated. Don't you ever believe that love is overrated. This show is always against cynicism in every form. The only thing wrong with love and faith, Hayley says, the only thing wrong with love and faith and belief is not having it. Because that's maybe the most rebellious thing you can do in our postmodern, ultra modern fucking world, in our really selfish and callous universe that we live in and that One Tree Hill takes place in. I think the most rebellious thing that you can do is have faith and belief and love in spite of it all. Because this world's going to break you down with hopelessness, with garbage, and with despair, right? I think that the most truthful thing you can do, the most human thing you can do, is rebel against that. Rebel against the cynicism that accompanies adulthood. Rebel against the cynicism that is involved with the modern human experience. Love is not overrated. Love is maybe the only caliber of, the only quality, the only thing that you should measure life by might be love. The only thing that gives it its clarity, and therefore its grace. Love is never overrated, and no one should ever think that love is overrated, because once you do, then the garbage, the hopelessness, then it's won and you've lost. But so long as you have that hope placed within your heart, placed deep inside of it, and you believe it, right? And you believe it'll come true soon. So long as you never believe that love is overrated, or so long as you keep trying to believe it's not, then you're still winning. Then you're still a competitor. Then you can still compete in that great basketball game of fucking life, right? Because she's telling this on the river court. She's saying this to him there. I'm elaborating a lot. She said reasonably little, but it's a few sentences that honestly says so much philosophically and analytically. As long as you can still compete. If cynicism takes you, you're gone. Keep your head in the game. Never settle to cynicism. Never give up to it. Never give your fire to those cynical types, to the cynical world. Love's not overrated. Cynicism is. I didn't really talk about Psycho Carrie too much. Cute girl, crazy girl, whatever. Nathan should have fired her immediately. When she kissed him, when she kept swimming naked, when she kept flirting with him, Hayley has every right to be mad at Nathan. I don't care how weak your male ego is. If I hire a nanny and she is clearly trying to hijack my family and assume my role within my family, and you are encouraging it because I don't look at you with hot red fuck me eyes anymore, dude, Nathan was a good character. It's just there were a lot of situations where there's a lot of apologia for Nathan going on in this season. I think he's mostly good. His relationship, his friendship with, his bonding with with Quentin is very nice. It had a good completion of an arc, and they both grew tremendously on account of it. It's just that the writers are very kind to Nathan, and I'm not sure if he deserves to be treated so kindly. He doesn't deserve to be assaulted or anything like that, or deserve to be in pain or despair, but Hayley deserves respect and appreciation, especially since she was doing all of it at the beginning when Nathan gave up and became a drunk. She not only deserves respect and admiration, she deserves, like, adoration. She should be Nathan's hero. And who gives a fuck if the hot nanny is showing you her ass and kissing you? That's reason to fire her, you ungrateful, weird prick with a bad ego problem. Maybe I'll change the topic because I keep trying to say nice things about Nathan, and that one component of the season, it does irk me, it does upset me. I actually liked Hayley a lot this season. I'm not used to defending her. And it's new for me, so forgive me. The whole liking Hayley thing and defending her, it's new. It's a new concept. Skills, I guess, is comic relief, and he's fucking Deb. Why not? Cool. I don't care. I don't care at all about that. The guy from Magic Mike or whatever, the himbo dude, the bartender Owen was in it. Okay. Don't care either. Brooke. You know what? Let's focus on the good stuff. The good stuff is Peyton and Lucas, and the good stuff is Dan, and the good stuff is Hayley. And that's a significant amount of good shit. Lucas has to stop being so afraid of rejection. Lucas, I mean, he has a desperate reaction to it, to the idea of rejection, because being rejection makes desperate people. That's how you make desperate people, by rejecting them. And if he was rejected by birth and constantly reminded of his arbitrary failings, of his unnecessary ones, then yeah, you're going to create a man who, no matter how successful or attractive he is, will always feel like there's something intrinsic, something almost biological, something inherent about him, about his very soul, that isn't worthy, that isn't worth accepting or saying yes to. And I totally get that. It's just, if anyone can help you get over that, Lucas, it's Peyton. Because If you give yourself to Peyton now, she will never let you go. She'll never reject you again. She couldn't take it. If you give yourself to her now, Lucas, then she'll gladly accept you forever. Hey, but I think that's all I'm going to talk about right now. It was fun talking about season 5 with you. I'll be back in a week to discuss season 6. I already know ahead of time that this is, and unless I'm wrong, but this is Hilary Burton and Chad Michael Murray's last season, season 6. So, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a hard one, but I've been having such a great time, and leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Yeah, thank you for coming with me on this journey, and we'll continue it in a week.